kiso.
You'll finish the sentence, but sing after me. And if you know it, sing along. May the Lord protect and defend you. May God always shield you from shame. May you come to be in Israel a shining name. May you be like Ruth and like Esther. May you be deserving of praise. Strengthen us, O Lord, and keep us from the stranger's ways. May God bless you and grant you long lives. May God keep you and shield you from strife. May the Lord
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It is so good to be with you tonight. Shabbat Teruma reminds us of the power of giving from the heart and the holiness that comes from working together. Rabbi Mordechai Yosef of Uzbeka taught, in the building of the tabernacle, all Israel was joined in heart. No one felt superior to his fellow. At first, each skilled individual did his own part, and it seemed to each one that his work was extraordinary, unique. But afterwards, they saw how all their varying contributions were integrated, how all the boards and the sockets, the loops and the curtains, the gold and the crimson, all fit together as if one person had done them all. Then they realized how each of them had depended upon the other and understood that what they had accomplished was not by their own virtue or skill alone. They were all joined in making the master plan come true. Moreover, the one who had made the holy ark itself was unable to feel superior to the one who had only made the courtyard tent pegs. This is one of my favorite stories, and I wanted to share it tonight because after the week we have just had, so many still without power, without drinkable water, the vulnerable in Texas still suffering so acutely, we know how much we depend on each other, not only on the infrastructure of our government and utilities, but we understand how much we need the attention and care of our elected officials, how the power of neighbors looking after neighbors is healing, how the concern of family and friends can uplift us and help us through. So tonight, we celebrate Shabbat. We highlight the impact volunteers make with a special highlight on Hadassah, reminding us of their sacred mission to advance women's health, support a strong Israel, and instill Jewish value in future generations, and so much more. And we recognize the value and blessings of the comforts we usually take for granted, and give thanks for community, for heat, for running water. So let's take a deep breath, do our best to let go of the week that has just been, if only for an hour, and let us each together welcome Shabbat with song. Turn to page 3 in our Sidurim. If you haven't yet gone there, we have a link in our chat, or will, here on Zoom and in the comments on Facebook, or if you're joining us on live stream, there's a link right below the picture of me talking to you right now. But at this moment, I'd like to invite Micheline Rutblu to turn to page 3 and lead us in the special reading before we kindle our Shabbos lights. I think you're good, Micheline. Page 3.
Okay. Yeah.
We can hear
Okay.
you.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. I wasn't sure that I was unmuted. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who allows us with his mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
I forgot my Kiddush cup. But y'all, please join in Kiddush on page 5, and Rabbi Nathan has a Kiddush cup. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho, v'avav v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat. Chaim.
We turn to page 12 now as we welcome Shabbat with song L'chuna Ranana.
And on just across the way on page 13, in the bottom paragraph, Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. V'tageh haaretz. Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. V'tageh haaretz. Yiram hayam. Yiram hayam. Yiram hayam u'melot. 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 Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. V'tageh haaretz. Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. Yismechu Hashemayim. V'tageh haaretz.
Turn to page 20 with us as we make ready to welcome the Sabbath bride, singing L'chadodi. We sing verses 1 and 2, 5 and 9. And when we reach verse 9, Bo'ivah Shalom, I invite you all to rise in whatever sacred space you find yourself in your mikdash ma'at, your little sanctuary that you have in your home, wherever you may be. Join us and rise spiritually or physically as we welcome that Sabbath bride. But first, we start with verses 1, 2, and 5 before we rise for verse 9. L'chadodi.
L'chadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi likrat kalai, yalalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Kishmianu el hameyuchad. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. I invite you all to turn on your cameras if you're here with us on Zoom for just a few moments so we can wish each other a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shalom,
everybody.
everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Marion.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
So good to see you all.
We're going to turn now to page 26 for Chatzi Kaddish, and if you're able, I encourage you to stand until the Shema.
Yitkadav Shemir Rab Amen. Ve'alma divrach chirutei ve'amnich malchutei. V'chai echon uv'yom echon. Uv'chayerecho Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala. Uv'izman kariv. V'meru. Amen. Yehi Shemir Rab Mevorach. Le'olam olam me'amaya. Yitbarach, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale, v'yithala shemei kurashat b'richu, le'la min kol birchata v'shirata, tush v'chata v'nechemata, Tamiran be'ama v'meru. Amen.
On page 30, we continue with Mari Varavim, praising God for the gift of creation. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna mishane etim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, boreyom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil bein yom uvein layla, Adonai tzavaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, baruch ata Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. On the top of page 33, we read together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. Please join me on page 36 with the Ve'ahavta. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת.
Amen. Tonight is Shabbat Zachor and also the Shabbat before Purim. And as we highlight our members of Hadassah who are with us tonight in our Shabbat celebration, I invite them to help lead us in a special Geula prayer. But they should all unmute themselves.
Marion's still muted.
I can tell. How about Debbie? You take Marianne's part and you'll switch, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
On Shabbat Zachor, we remember, the Torah says, remember what Amalek did to you on the way upon your departure from Egypt. We remember all those who have tried to destroy us for being Jewish. Remember the generations of Jews who have suffered persecution and discrimination. We honor the memories of those who perished because they were Jews. Marion?
I'm sorry, I thought I wasn't a part of this, but is Kathy ready to read?
I am here.
Marianne, you were supposed to read the first part and Debbie read it for you. So now you're going to read the second paragraph.
Okay, well, I don't have it in front of me, so I am asking Kathy to take over. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll do the second paragraph then. On Shabbat Zachor, we remember. We remember the brave Jews who fought for their faith and made courageous choices in the face of danger. We remember Jews and non-Jews who took risks, who stood up for justice and protected those who could not protect themselves. We honor their willingness to make the well-being of others their foremost concern.
On Shabbat Zachor, we remember. We remember Queen Esther, Hadassah, on this Shabbat before Purim. We remember her bravery. She risked her own life despite her fears to save her community. We honor her decision to speak up for others who could not speak for themselves.
Thank you very much.
Micheline, your part.
You have to unmute.
At all times, we remember that God redeemed us from slavery in Egypt to serve a greater purpose, to treat the stranger and the vulnerable among us with compassion and respect, to love our neighbors as ourselves.
May our song of redemption, Mi Chamocha, remind us to always stand up and speak out against injustice in our world. May the spirit of our prayers inspire us to act like Queen Esther and do what is required of us when it is needed most.
Yada יפאר אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני.
On page 43, we read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapurei sukat shalom aleinu, al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 44, V'shamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We continue with the Amidah on page 46, and if you are able, I invite you to please rise.
Adonai Sfotai Tiftach, Adonai Sfotai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Adonai Sfotai Tiftach, Adonai Sfotai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, Eloyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע, Moshiva ruach morid hagashem, mechaker chaim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim v'rofei cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, U'midol melech, melech mimit u'mechayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata l'chayot hakol, baruch ata Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahallelu chasela, baruch ata Adonai, Kadosh.
You may be seated. We continue together at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. We continue on page 57 at the bottom. You are with us in our prayer, our love and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha be'ira na'avod. On page 61, we join together in our prayer for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. Having prayed for peace in our world, we think of those who face the future not fully whole, those who are in need of healing of mind, of body, and of spirit. We think of those in our community, across the state, across the world as well, but specifically this week in Texas and in Louisiana as we deal with this winter storm and the effects of it, as well as COVID and all of the effects of that. We take a moment and think of those who are in need of healing. We join together singing El Na Rafana La, which is our prayer for healing.
please take a moment for your own silent meditations.
Tonight, as we do from time to time, we invite Dr. Michael Ozer to share as a guest darshan and share a Devar Torah on this week's Torah portion. Welcome, Dr. Ozer.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Nathan. Shabbat Shalom, Temple Beth-El family. At the beginning of this week's Parsha, Terumah, God commands Moses that the Israelite people were to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts from me, from every person whose heart so moves him. The text says in Exodus 25:2. And again, it says, and let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them. What is the Torah trying to tell us? The Parsha is filled with complicated descriptions about how each element of the Mishkan was to be fashioned and what materials to use, from the lampstand or menorah to the cherubim at each end. I don't think the complexity is by accident, nor is the command regarding the gifts coming from the hearts of every person in the way he or she is moved. God is signaling that each of us is unique and needs to be counted. We all have something special, some special talent or gift to bring to the process. None of us can be replaced. We are each B'Tselem Elohim, created in the image of God. The Israelites, up to this point in our story, had seen the wonders of God acted out before them as an overwhelming presence. The plagues, dividing the sea, sending manna from heaven, and most recently receiving the 10 Commandments. But how could a closer, more intimate relationship with the Creator be crafted? Thus came God's concept of a sanctuary so he could dwell among them, and the idea of gifts so that closeness could somehow be felt by each individual in their own special way. But how can each of us feel the presence of God in our everyday lives? Terumah means contribution. The best way of encountering God is to give. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks explains it this way, and I quote, the very act of giving flows from the understanding that what we give is part of what we were given. It is a way of giving thanks, an act of gratitude. That is the difference in the human mind between the presence of God and the absence of God. The Torah tells us something simple and practical. Give, and you will come to see life as a gift. You don't need to prove that God exists. All you need to be thankful for is that you exist, and the rest will follow. That's the end of that's from Rabbi Sachs. So it wasn't the nature of the materials or the amount of gold or silver that the Mishkan was made of that was important. It was the idea that each of these gifts was a special one that came from someone's heart. Although teruma is translated as offering or contribution, it really means to lift up. In a commentary on this parsha, Obadiah ben Jacob Safarno, a 16th century Italian rabbi, notes that the cherubs that adorn the ark as facing the Torah beneath the lid. As a result of such posturing to the Torah, it was as though they were looking to it for inspiration. The cherubs are then described as spreading their wings in an upward direction, as if reflecting that they had received spiritual information enabling them to fly. The description of the cherubs' posture reflects what Solomon described in Proverbs, quote, "For an intelligent man, the path of life is upward," close quote. The meaning of this for today is pretty clear. In order to feel lifted up spiritually in our lives, we must give. The more we give of ourselves with those sparks that make each of us unique, the more we become elevated and have the opportunity to feel closer to what God aspires us to be in this world. We've seen that this past week when so many of you called others to check on them during the frigid temperatures, or did things to help those without power by offering a warm place to come over for a meal or a hot shower. We could see it in the message sent out by Rabbis Nathan and Berlin earlier in the week. Again, I quote, "If you or someone you know in our temple family has non-emergency weather needs, let us know." And the special response from Jewish Federation in partnership with Temple just this afternoon for free fresh produce and eggs for pickup here at Beth-El. May we all appreciate more the lessons from our sages and the Torah, that we each have a special role to act with kindness and compassion in this world. And in doing so, we can amplify the goodness around us in the image of our Creator. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Yasher Koach. You got one of my favorite Torah portions, and you spoke about the part that lifts me up the most as well. I think giving from our hearts and giving not because we have to, but because we want to, is the key to feeling a strong part of community and finding meaning in the world as well. So thank you, Dr. Ozer, for
it was so natural to have this parsha this week with everything we all faced, and the answer is for us to act.
Absolutely. Torah is funny that way. That's how we know it's divine. Rabbi Yergin?
We continue with Aleinu, which is on page 283. And if you are able, I invite you to please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. As we turn to page 289 for our memorial meditation, we note with sadness the death of Seymour Palins, husband of Judy Pearlstone Palins, father of David and Karen Palins, father-in-law of Melanie Palins, brother of Herb and Linda Palins, grandfather of Brian and Jessica, Leslie, Jacob, and Garrett, great-grandfather of Eliza and Caleb, uncle of Kevin Palins, Shelley and Larry Mrazek, Carly and Liv Palins, and Zach Palins, great uncle of Olivia Mrazek, Ryan Mrazek, and Matthew Mrazek. A memorial minion service will be held on Sunday, February 21st at 6:30 p.m. We note with sadness also the death of Dr. Eleanor Bitsy Comet, mother of Lori and Mark Porter, David Comet, Leslie Comet and Adam Osborne, Missy and Eric Rindler, grandmother of Aaron and Cody, Shane, Sarah, Xander and Autumn, Evan, Tori, Ethan, Madeline, Peyton, Cowboy, and Ben, great-grandmother of Zane, sister of Michael and Louise Belden, sister-in-law of Stephen and Pharrell Sherman, aunt of Lisa Perkins, Fred Sherman and Tom Ammontree, Marty and Joe Smith, Brad and Susan Belden, Allie and Danny Kustoff, Jen and James Rosenblatt, and Jonathan and Maria Belden. Services will be held on Sunday, February 21st at 4 p.m. The service will be available via live streaming provided by Porter Loring Mortuaries. Links for both of these services can be found on Temple Beth-El's website calendar. Page 289. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. Our thoughts turn now to those in our community who have died at this time in years past. As we mark their yard sites, we remember them. Leonard Adelman, Cecile August, Albert Burgle, Esther Berman, Jake Blend, Ed Block, Gertrude F. Bodenheimer, Delia Maria Judith Haramia Carranzo, Deborah Dreyer Klutz, Miriam Crane, Nancy Edwards, Dr. Alvin H. Fryman, Anne Frieden, Raina Benyon Gabay, Abe Gans, Chaim Gendelman, Dorothy Gold, Aaron Golden, Linda Golden, Mary Elizabeth Harris, Charles William Hayes, David Hoberman, Hy Hurwitz, Mendel Califf, Morris Callison, Donald Kaufman, Leon B. Kaufman, Nathan Harry Kinover, Molly Klein, Ben Crandall, Gilbert Lang, Babette Lauderstein, Evelyn Levy, Julius L. Levinson, Aaron Mandel, Louis L. Michael, David Mills, Michael Morrow, Norman Netter, Bernard Newberg, Ernest Parks, Louis Peters, Max Pincus, Edith Pomerantz, Dorothy Winkler Porterfield, Leah Hinda Pullen, Jesse Ralphman, Jack Richmond, Wade Richmond, Flora Roomberg, Jeanette Roos, Morris J. Roos, Herman Rubenstein, Michael E. Rubenstein, Nettie Sachs, Mim Charlack, Cecil E. Shanker, Helen Siegel, Sophie Simon, Beth Eidelberg Stern, Emily Strauss, Jeanette M. Strauss, Bernard Sturman, Regina Ubogi, Adolf Vogel, Simon Waxberg, and Leo Wank. To these names, we add those who've died this past month, whose family is in a mourning period of Shloshim. We remember Dr. Wilfredo Cantu, Kathy Adelman, Polly Livingston, Michael Mickey J.C. Roth, Betty Lee Neinschweinder, and Francis Vogel. We also think of those who've died this past week, whose families are in a mourning period of Shiva. Remember Bernard Bernie Nathan Bornett, husband of Esther Forbes Bornett, father of Marlon and Barbara Bornett, Judy and Jack Fries, Trent Bornett and Mark Ingram, and Darren Bornett, brother of Luann and Larry Cohen, uncle of Jerry Cohen and Jeff Moorhead, and Toby and Kate Cohen, grandfather of Harrison, Michaela, Jacob, Ian, Alex, and Daniel, and many more relatives in Houston and across the country. A memorial minyan will be held on Saturday, February 20th at 7 p.m. Those wishing to join the Bornett family may do so online with the link found on the Temple Beth-El website calendar. We also remember Nancy J. Smallwood, mother of Diana and Fred Cohen, Donald and Mary Jane Smallwood, Lori and Winston Adcock, and Donna Clausen, grandmother of Liz and Jack, Robert and Jamie, Joshua, Stacy, Courtney, John, Dylan, Christy, Bonnie, and Aisha, great-grandmother of Jack, Brendan, Gia, and Brianna. With all of these names, together with those which are in our hearts each and every day, we join together, standing as one community for Kaddish Yatom on page 294. Yitzkadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudasha barichu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, Tushvachata v'nechamata, Amiran ve'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, ya'asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen. You may be seated. It is my honor to invite Marian Bernstein to unmute herself to give us some announcements and insight into the San Antonio chapter of Hadassah.
I guess it's almost a second Devar. I'm honored to represent Hadassah at Shabbat services at Temple Beth-El. This is the Shabbat before Purim, which celebrates the founding of Hadassah 108 years ago. It's named for the heroine of the holiday, Esther, whose Hebrew name was Hadassah. Esther was one of two rebellious women in this story who did not obey royal protocol. Vashti, the previous queen, had the chutzpah to defy the king's order to appear at his drinking party. For this, she was deposed, banished, and possibly killed. After conducting a national search for beautiful young women, the king selects Esther. She confronts a dilemma when she has to save her people. She knows that if summoned to the king, she must come on pain of death. She also knows that if she comes unsummoned, there is the same penalty. Mordecai assures her it's worth the risk. Esther accepts the challenge, prepares herself spiritually, and begins a gradual, indirect campaign to achieve her goal. Esther, or Hadassah, is our role model. Her rebellion is not passive, like Vashti's refusal. Esther takes action, and she plans ahead. Henrietta Zold, the founder of Hadassah, also saw problems and took steps to correct them. Whether it was a lack of pasteurized milk for nursing mothers and babies in the Holy Land, or the lack of homes for refugee children from Nazi Germany, Her practicality and activism led to the founding of Hadassah Hospital and Youth Aliyah. These institutions assured physical and mental health in Israel even before there was an Israel. May we in Hadassah continue to take action on behalf of Israel, women, and health. With your support and participation, our actions will resound for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us tonight and celebrating this Shabbat with us. I'm now going to invite Dr. Amy Benedict to unmute to deliver tonight's announcements on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Temple Beth-El.
Thank you, Rabbi Yergin. The first thing I want to do is thank both Marion and Dr. Ozer for your words of wisdom. They were wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us this evening. Just a reminder, everything we're doing at synagogue obviously is online, and you can find that in your weekly email that comes from Joel. And it's titled This Week Under the Dome. So you can look up everything that's going on there. I wanted to actually just share with you what went on today, because it made me proud to be a member of our Jewish community with the food pantry that we had from 2 to 5 p.m. today at Temple. And I want to thank all the volunteers. We had great volunteers, and Ross organized all that. So thank you so much for doing that. But it was really gratifying to see that we could help those who are food insecure during this time. So that was really a wonderful experience. So you all should be really proud to be members of Temple Beth-El and part of our Jewish community. And I'm grateful to be sitting in front of a roaring fire when I didn't have electricity. I thought I was pretty tough. Apparently I'm incredibly weak because I was so freezing cold. I just thought I couldn't make it, but then my electricity came on. So I was one of the lucky ones who was only out for 20 hours. Hopefully you all are staying safe and warm, and Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful week.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Dr. Benedict. And as you pointed out, not everyone has gotten their power back. So if you know someone who needs a place to stay, and you have the ability to comfortably give them a place to stay, or at least, as Dr. Ozer had said, a place for a meal or just a little time to warm up, we invite you to do that. The roads seem clear now, though. It is supposed to freeze again tonight. So if there's any liquid, precipitation on the road, it could ice up again. But, what we have been told from the local officials is the more local you help people, the better. So if you know someone in your neighborhood, walking distance or a short ways away that you can reach out to from the community, that's the best way to offer support. Our closing song is Oseh Shalom. Join with us. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. If you're here with us on Zoom, we invite you to turn on your camera one more time.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks for
Stay
joining
warm.
us.
Thank you very much, Temple Beth-El, for inviting us.
Glad to
Thanks
have
for
you.
Shabbat
joining
shalom,
us.
Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Stay warm, stay safe.
Trying.